Welcome to today's class. So in today's class, we are going to be looking at an interesting topic, which is enzymes. So think about what happens whenever you eat food. You want energy, for example, you want to study. So those food need to be broken down fast so that you can absorb what? Energy. So those substances which help speed up the process are what are known as enzymes. So in today's class, I'll help you solve and understand well this topic on enzymes. Then at the end of the video, we are going to revise by solving these two questions which came in the previous past papers. So stick through to the end of the video. Yeah. So to begin, what exactly are enzymes? So when we're talking about enzymes, just remember that enzymes, these are known as the biological catalyst. So an enzyme is what? A biological catalyst. Yeah. So whenever we are talking about an enzyme, what you need to know is it is a biological catalyst. So what do we mean when we say it is a biological catalyst? So whenever we hear the word biological, means is it has to do with what? Living things. So whenever you hear the word bio, just remember that these enzymes have to do with what? With living organisms. Then when we talk about a catalyst is any substance which speeds up the rate of a reaction. So when we're talking about a catalyst, we are saying that it's any substance that can speed up what? A chemical reaction without being changed. So meaning when we combine these two, therefore you can understand that an enzyme, since it is a biological catalyst, which means it speeds up the processes which happens inside what? Living organisms. That's the simple definition of an enzyme. It is a biological catalyst. Then we say that a catalyst is anything or any substance that speeds up a chemical reaction without being changed. So now that we have understood what an enzyme is and we have known the what? The definition. We are going to look at now the types, since we said that this enzyme speeds up what? Chemical reaction. So meaning there should be types of what? Enzymes which speeds up specific reaction. So what are the two types of enzymes? So we have enzymes that work inside living cells. So we have what? Enzymes that work inside our cells. So the first type, so types of enzymes, we have what are known as the intracellular enzymes. So what are intracellular enzymes? So intracellular enzymes, these are enzymes which work inside the living cells. So intracellular enzymes, they work inside living cells. So that is the first type of enzyme which we are going to discuss today. Yeah. Then the second type of enzyme is what is known as the extracellular. So if intracellular means inside, therefore extracellular will mean what? Outside. So the second type of enzyme are extracellular enzymes. So these enzymes, they work what? Outside living cells. Yeah, and here you have to take note that we are not saying outside or inside the body, but living what? Cells. We are talking about cells here. So these enzymes are present inside cells. Yeah. So the next terms which we are going to look at are very, very important. So these three terms, you need to know them, because what do we mean when we're talking about terms? So these are words which you need to be using whenever you are writing an essay on enzyme. So the three terms which you are discussing will be essay terms. So the terms which you will be using whenever you are solving essay questions on enzyme. So the first term is what is known as a substrate. So what do we mean when we say a substrate? So a substrate, this is any substance which an enzyme works on to form what? A product. So we are saying enzyme speeds up the reaction. So that substance which an enzyme works on is what is known as a substrate. So whenever you are talking about a substance which an enzyme is working on, don't mention a substance, mention what? A substrate. Yeah. So we are saying that a substrate is any substance on which enzymes work to form a product. So we know that once an enzyme is done speeding up a reaction, a product will form from that. So this is the simplest explanation you ever get on enzymes. Yeah. Then the next term which you come across is what is known as an active site. So what is an active site? So an active site, this is the part of an enzyme where the substrate fits. So we said that the substrate is any substance. Then when you say that an active site, this is the part of an enzyme. So this is the part of an enzyme where the substrate fit or bind. So this is where now the substrate will come and bind to form what is known as an enzyme substrate complex. So whenever you hear the word complex, they are just saying these two things are joined together, an enzyme and a substrate, to form what? A complex. Then the last term which will come across is what is known as an allosteric site. So what is an allosteric site? So an allosteric site, this is just the other part of an enzyme. So this is just the other part of an enzyme. Yeah. So now that we have understood the three terms which you come across under enzymes, we are going to look at a diagram which will now explain these terms, so that in case they bring a diagram, you are able to solve that question with confidence. So here we are going to look at how enzyme works now. So how enzyme works. Yeah. So let me draw the enzyme. So this is an enzyme. Yeah. So this is what is known as an enzyme. Then this is what is known as a substrate. So let me label them. So this is what is known as a substrate. And this is what is known as an enzyme. Yeah. So you are probably seeing that both of them have shapes. So these shapes are what allows an enzyme to work on a substrate. So I'll explain to you a theory or a principle which is known as a lock and key mechanism. So most of us, or every one of us, have used a key and what? A door. So the way a key fits into the door, that's how an enzyme and the substrate fits together. So you can see that they have what are known as complementary shapes, meaning this substrate can only fit at a specific enzyme, just like one key can only open one specific door. Yeah, so that's how an enzyme works, or that's how you can explain the lock and key mechanism. So next on, we say that an enzyme has what? Parts. So we have looked at a substrate. Then we need to know now the two types, or the two parts which are remaining, which is the active side and what? The allosteric side. So what is the allosteric side on our diagram here? So the allosteric side is this part. So this part is what is known as the allosteric part. Then this part, which has a shape complementary to the substrate, is what is known as the active site. Yeah. This is where the enzyme will bind with what? With the substrate to form a lock and key. Yeah. So now that we have understood the parts of an enzyme and the substrate, we are going to see what happens when an enzyme and a substrate joins together. So here, these two arrows represents now an enzyme and the substrate joining together. So when the two join together, they form what is known as So they form what is known as an enzyme complex, an enzyme substrate complex. Yeah. So we say that this is an enzyme, then this is a substrate. So yeah, let me use a different type. Yeah. So this, we say that this is a substrate, and the other part is the enzyme. So we say that when an enzyme and the substrate combine, they form what is known as an enzyme substrate complex. Enzyme substrate complex. So this is just a fancy way of saying that an enzyme and the substrate have joined together. Yeah. So once this happens, we know that this is where now an enzyme starts to work on the substrate. So once the enzyme finish working on the substrate, we are going to see now the final result. So what are the final results? So the final results are, of course, we have an enzyme. Then here, yeah. So here we have an enzyme and what are known as products. So here the final result, remember it is not called a substrate, but it is a product. What is formed now after an enzyme has reacted with what? With a substrate. So once an enzyme has reacted with a substrate, it forms what are known as products and an enzyme itself. Yeah. So once this enzyme has finished breaking down this substrate to form product, it will go back again and begin the same process over and over again. Yeah. So this is basically the introduction to the topic enzymes. So here we have looked at the definition of an enzyme, which we say that an enzyme is any substance which can speed up what? A chemical reaction. Then we also looked at the types of enzyme, where we looked at intracellular and extracellular enzymes. We say that intracellular enzyme works inside living cells. Then extracellular, they work what? Outside living cells. Then we looked at the terms which you'll be using whenever you are writing an essay on enzyme. We say that a substrate, an active site, and an allostatic site. And I explained to you all the three terms in a simplified diagram. And we also looked at a mechanism which is known as a lock and key. So we said that whenever you are talking about the lock and key mechanism, think of an enzyme being what? Specific. An enzyme will only do what? Will only work on a specific substrate because they have what is known as a complementary shape. Meaning, just like a key fits into one door, one specific door, that's how an enzyme and a substrate fits. So be sure to join my second class where we are going to conclude the topic of enzyme by looking at the characteristics and the factors that affect enzymes, and we'll also finish by revising those two questions. So these two questions, which, so by now, before I end the video, by now most of us have understood and can solve part 1 of this question, which says identify M, N, and P. So we say that M is what? The substrate. N, we say that is what? The active site. Then when we look at O, we say this what? Allosteric site. Then when we look at P, which are these two, which are known as the products. So this is how questions, and this is how simple questions can come on enzyme. So be sure to subscribe, comment, and share the video if it was helpful, and also wait for part 2.